I would be happy to, Mr. Chairman. This is a remote participation meeting of the Finance Committee of the Town of Yarmouth, February 3rd, 2021. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law 30A, subsection 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing a limitation on the number of people that may gather in one location, this meeting will be conducted via remote participation. Specific information such as instructions and guidelines for remote by members of the public and or parties with the right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town website at www.yarmouth.ma.us. For the public portion of this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch and participate in the meeting may do so by logging on to our agenda at www.yarmouth.ma.us and putting comments in public comment at yarmouth.ma.us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. This evening we have the IT budget presentation as well as the finance budget presentation. The administration budget presentation that was the first presentation of the evening has been postponed to next week. We're going to do a roll call to start the evening, and if I could just get a present, that would be great. Stephanie?
Present.
Nate?
Present.
George?
Present.
Robert?
Yeah.
Sarah?
Here.
I'm here as well, and just checking one more. I do not see Jack. Okay.
I've got an eye out for him, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to jump right into the presentations. The first one on the agenda is the IT budget. I'm not 100% certain who is presenting that. Pat, if you could give me some guidance there.
Absolutely. Joining us tonight is Ed Centio, the Director of Finance, and along with him is Svetlana Salem. Svetlana is the admin to the IT department, as well as our specialist in procurement, and she and Ed put this together and will be doing this for you tonight. And Ed will be handling his own technology. Go ahead, Ed.
Ed, let's go. How you doing?
And do we not have an IT director right now?
We don't. We just filled the project manager position, and there are candidates, 12, I think, for the IT director, which hopefully will be done by the end of the month in terms of interviews and recommendations. Yes, thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Ed Centio presenting the IT budget. We actually did a lower level than the project manager, I believe. It was a technology number 2 person. So we have 2 employees in IT right now. So we're down 3 employees in IT. And as you'll see, other people are picking up the slack, including Pat. Just to look at the mission statement, I'm not sure if I have to read this. You guys received the slides prior to this meeting, and I can go into these items in more detail if you like. But there are about 260 users that have to be supported by our IT department, and dozens of servers and other technology that has to be supported by the IT department. The again, goal of IT, and I usually try to say that technology is a force multiplier, and you'll see that when we get into the finance department. Utilizing technology, we don't have to hire as many people as we might have had in prior years, and if people will fully embrace technology, then they can do a lot more with the current staff or potentially less staff as we move forward. Excuse me, some key points. We have, or the IT department has implemented a virtual server environment. So instead of having multiple different boxes of computers that are in the server room, one big box that can handle multiple servers, and it's called a virtual server, and you can bring up a server whenever you like, when there's a new need to bring up a server. So that's a more up-to-date technology than what we had in the past. There are security enhancements so that if one particular building is attacked from the outside. There is now some security to prevent those types of things. PCs are constantly being upgraded, and the support for staff is being done, and that not only includes PCs, but that's printers and copiers and other devices as well. Contracts have been completed for moving Munis, our financial management system, to the cloud. Again, with what has happened recently with our IT department, the fact that it's difficult to hire good IT people with the amount of money the municipality can pay, and the fact that the cost of living on the Cape is fairly high, it's difficult to hire and maintain good IT staff. So it's a matter of, do we hire staff or do we outsource the function? And we're doing a financial management review. We did that 10 years ago. Their focus is going to be a little bit different, and they're going to look closely at technology to see, and this would be the state organization that does these types of studies for free, and they'll be looking at what might be the best way to manage our IT environment moving forward. And then we're moving to replacement for the Acela system. We've had that system in place for 8 years. That does our online permitting, licensing, and we have tablets in the field for inspections, and we're looking to upgrade that. And the contracts have been signed. We had a pre-implementation meeting today, and we have a kickoff meeting on the 17th. And then likewise for email and our Microsoft Office suite of tools, those are going to be put in the cloud. Again, large companies will be maintaining the servers and infrastructure, as opposed to having to rely on local staff to maintain servers and software related to our critical infrastructure. Just reduces the risk. Looking at the budget overview, you'll see that the budget wages are on par with what they were last year. However, we did a transfer, I believe that you guys may have already signed off on, which is to move money from wages into expenses, because we're outsourcing a lot of our IT support at this point in time because we don't have the staff to do it. And you'll also see a large increase in expenses, and that is a move to go from a CapEx model to an OpEx model. And what that means is that instead of doing capital expenditures or large capital expenditures every 3 to 4 years to buy servers, what we'll be doing is paying for yearly licenses. So this is a transition year. Unfortunately, it is during this particular time frame where we have the COVID situation and recession. But again, the risk of not having our IT environment operable because we don't have the staff in place is fairly high as it concerns operating in the town. Again, the wages are a result of COLAs and any step increases that might be in place. And we're speculating about the dollars that we may need to use either for an IT manager, or if we don't do an IT manager and we actually outsource, except for a few boots on the ground that can actually touch the machines and do what they need to do, then the wages could go to an expense line. But that's to be determined. Everybody really wants to have staff on site, but again, can you get somebody with the high level of skills that we need, given the amount of money we're able to pay? And then again, we talked about the CapEx to the OpEx model. Just to give you a feel for some of the prices for the software licenses that we're looking at, we have a list here, and we can go over again in any amount of detail that you like as it relates to these different software packages or different services that are provided. But many of them are just the critical infrastructure of backup solutions or antivirus protection, those types of things that we need to actually operate a modern information technology solution or set of solutions. And then the next piece is where we have the biggest ticket item, the Munis financial management software suite that we take full advantage of. And we'll talk about that maybe more when we get into the finance department presentation. But we have things like vendor self-service, employee self-service, citizen self-service. Vendor self-service allows vendors to actually submit their invoices to us electronically online, so we're reducing the amount of labor that the different department staff have to devote towards managing accounts payable transactions. We're 100% paperless, or almost 100% paperless with our accounts payable and our purchase orders. So we're taking full advantage of the Munis suite. And then we have other software packages that we're putting in place. Again, I'm trying to go through this quickly in case you have questions. Excuse me, again, as I indicated, there are 3 IT positions, and looking at the challenges, 3 open IT positions. One was just hired. I'm not sure when that person will come on board. We have a consultant that's basically running our IT shop right now. Pat Armstrong is doing the work related to the technology for Channel 18 and the web, and finance has taken on 4 critical time-sensitive IT projects that we need to deliver very shortly. Again, the budget is moving from a CapEx to an OpEx model, and we're moving from physical servers in Town Hall to the cloud as much as is practical. And, it's an issue with hiring staff and retaining staff. We can look at staff internally or outsourcing that function. Recommendations are to hire an IT director and or outsource this function. We need to do staff training and development for the 1 person that is full-time in the IT department, and soon to be 2 people. And we need to continue, I believe, to move to the cloud and continue to have off-site backups, utilizing cloud backup services and things along those lines. Looking at the capital or article budget requests, there are requests for $55,000 to replace aging PCs. There are requests for $50,000 or $50,500 for some network infrastructure components, and our town system for phones needs to be replaced, and it's causing incredible productivity issues. We can't get the phones routed correctly within the departments. The town clerks are getting overburdened with having to route phone calls that should be done electronically because of the phone systems. I'll be working with our IT person to see if we can at least get it more functional so we can operate in a good manner. But that's a critical issue that we need to try to deal with, and we may look to a cloud solution for that as well. What I've done in this presentation and for the finance presentation is also let you know what we already have in the bank to help address the IT needs. So we have a lot of articles and funds that departments have at their disposal that we like to divulge so that you can actually look at what people already have versus what they're requesting for, new different types of things. So the $100,000 in document scanning will be tied to hopefully the CPA ask, so that we can just wipe out the paper that's just poorly organized in different buildings throughout the town, have them catalog. This money will go to scanning and document destruction, whereas the key to the CPA funds is document retention for those documents that might become historic documents over time. And then we have some money for the Munis time and attendance model. That's our upgrade to our 11-year-old time and attendance solution. And this is a networked, highly automated time and attendance solution, which reduces incredibly the amount of staff and work that needs to be done for payroll. There's some money left over for IT application improvements. Self-service media conference room, that's for the fire department. We have some money for other PC components and replacements, network infrastructure, IT infrastructure, and software server applications. This is the 2021 amounts that we have to pay to actually get the things like the Acela replacement in place and some of the other tools that we'll have in place that we'll be paying for on an annual basis next fiscal year. And any questions?
Anybody have anything for Ed?
Yes, George, I have two, one I want to make a point. I didn't get any of the PowerPoint presentations again. I'm not sure what's causing that, but just to be noted. Second of all, Ed,
George, did you check your spam?
I will. It shouldn't be a problem, though.
I don't know.
I'll check it, Pat, and I'll get back to you and let you know if that's it.
Please do.
Mine does go to my spam as well, George. So I don't
Okay.
know why, no matter what I try to do, I can't get it not to.
Okay, and that may be it. I may see it as a large number of addressees. So, Ed, you mentioned the difficulty of hiring because of the low wage we're offering. What are we paying relative to the rest of the state for that particular function on average?
Well, it wouldn't be the rest.
Above or below the average?
Well, I guess I came from the private sector, and a person who might be our IT director might be, making $300,000 a year, and we're going to pay somebody about $120,000 a year.
Okay.
So, it's just a whole different marketplace. So if you want to make money, you're going to go to the private sector. If you are looking to develop your skills, or maybe you're looking for a less stressful, less intense job, you might think that you're going to work in a municipality, but that's not the case. You're going to work in a place where you'll have less resources than you might have in the private sector, and you're going to have to get a lot of things done that maybe you didn't imagine you might have to get done. So when you look at the rest of
I
the
appreciate the competition with the private sector, but there are 351 cities and towns that we are competing against, I guess.
Yes.
So relative to them, what are we paying?
And you're not, again, you can't just look at like Plymouth. So what we're doing is we're getting people that our outsourced company is giving us from Plymouth, and they might make $80,000 to $90,000. But down on the Cape, they might need to make $110,000, $120,000 to make, from a cost of living standpoint, the same amount of money. So you can't compare them to, Western Massachusetts or other communities. You have to compare them more towards, what might be a city set of dollars. And then you have to get either somebody working off Cape and coming to the Cape, or they have to buy a house in a very competitive market on the Cape, or they already have to live here on the Cape. So, it's not as plain as saying, okay, we get a benchmark against 351 communities. There are different dynamics that happen on Cape Cod than do, in some of the off-Cape communities as it relates to cost of living, as many of you know.
Let me go that one step further then. I assume we have a peer set of communities that we compare ourselves to relative to them. Are we paying above or below average?
We're paying below average, and I'll send you the amount of work we have to do here given the staff size versus some of the other municipalities.
What's the impediment then for offering more?
There's no impediment except a recession. But no, there isn't an impediment. We just have to do a different job description, or get them rated differently. They should be very highly paid. So yes, we can look at that. But we'll look at what I think we have several applications. But again, what I'm used to is a different level of IT person than even what the other people on the Cape have. We have some of the most advanced automation in Yarmouth compared to other municipalities on the Cape and even off Cape. And that helps drive down the number of staff members that we need elsewhere. So, where you might, you go to another community, you couldn't plug that person into Yarmouth necessarily and get the same things done that we need to get done in Yarmouth. I came from a Fortune 100 company, And I'm fortunate enough to do those types of things, but rarely do you find any of that kind of talent in any of the other municipalities on Cape Cod. And that's why I say it's a force multiplier, because like our staff went from 24 staff members in finance down to 19. You know, that's a 20% drop. And currently we're at 25% of where we were in 2010. And that's because of automation. So, you know, there are some key issues.
Yeah,
So I can get
you
you
don't have to
numbers.
make that argument to me, Ed. I'm fully on board. But
Yeah,
I guess what I'm trying.
I could get you numbers. I can get you numbers, but they're not necessarily going to be apples to apples, because the other
No,
people that
I'm
are
not
doing this
interested.
job,
I
I
just-
wouldn't hire.
I was just wondering, you know, the argument is we got these jobs, they're posted at salaries that are nowhere near competitive, so we can't get anybody. So my response to that is, all right, what do we got to do to resolve that?
Right. We
I
can
have
either
another question.
outsource or we can make do.
Let me ask a third question. You said another alternative was to outsource this. That is, rather than hire them in-house, hire somebody else to do this for us. What's your personal opinion? Well, maybe I don't want to put you on the spot, but is that viable for Yarmouth?
Yes,
Okay.
particularly if we can't get the kind of talent we want in an IT director. It absolutely is.
Okay. All right. I'm good.
Ed, is that a common
Thank you. Good question.
occurrence,
Great question.
outsourcing?
Excuse me?
Is outsourcing a common occurrence in towns for IT?
It is in several towns, or has been in several towns, and the private sector is going that way as well in many cases.
So I have a couple of questions, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So first of all, your point is well taken, Ed, as far as, you know, the challenge that George was alluding to about needing to be competitive and being able to not only find but retain competent, you know, staff who are going to not just, you know, get the job done, but help improve things and help the town sort of grow the way that it needs to grow. And, you know, I see that across the Cape in my housing world. So just a comment that this is going to be a problem in a lot of different departments moving forward, and it's going to continue to get worse until we really tackle the affordability challenge here on the Cape. And that, so to the extent that, you know, we can get wastewater in place so that we can start to, you know, get more, you know, multifamily housing and apartment buildings and stuff, this is going to continue to get worse and cost towns more money. So that's a fact. Second, as far as the outsourcing, has there been any conversations at the county level about this, Ed? Like about, I know, I mean, Truro can't have, you know, like a decent IT department based on their cost of living and size of their town, right? Like, has there ever been any conversation about sort of a shared IT thing through the county, either through the commission or through something independent of the county?
Extensive conversations over 9 years.
They got us nowhere, right?
They thought that they were going to have a profit center and make a whole bunch of money doing this type of service and bail out their poor financial situation. What I indicated to them was that, you know, they're in place to provide regional solutions and reduce the cost of towns, and that, again, they have the same problems that we do in hiring staff. So they weren't able to build up the right staff, put in the right equipment. So I tried to work with them to bring in somebody to actually provide an outsourced contract for the entire Cape that would, you know, look at IP phone systems, that would look at, you know, regional permitting, look at all of these things on a regional basis.
Mm-hmm.
But they, you know, have been kind of still plowing through trying to do it with internal staff, and they just aren't able to leverage up enough to get that done. Yes, that ideally is absolutely the way we should go.
I mean, I think the
But I
thing,
have not been,
I was just gonna say, I think the
I
thing
have
is,
not been able to, even through volunteering, been able to get that to work.
yeah. I mean, I think the thing is that there's a sort of this, misnomer about outsourcing. I mean, whomever you outsource to, especially if it's in the private sector, they're in business to make money. So if you're just outsourcing to a private company, there's going to be some padding on it. If it's the county, they got to, have some padding on it. The question is, at the end of the day, is the town saving money and getting the best value?
So yeah, when I look at an outsourced firm is, Pat, did you have a question, a comment? Or?
I just wanted to mention that in the Lower Cape towns, they have a municipal agreement between the towns of sharing skill sets, and they have set up between Eastham and Truro and down in that area, an understanding that if someone's in need because a staff person is left, or they need someone to come in because the skill set isn't there, they will pay almost like a detail fee with like a 5% on top for them to share that person with the town next door, so it's kind of a creation of a regionalization idea. And we were talking, a couple of us were talking about how that would work on a Cape-wide basis. And the thinking is that in order for it to work, it's got to come through the Municipal Managers Association, the Cape and Island Managers Association, who would be the ones that would feel comfortable and do that share. So it'll take a bit to establish, but I think there's a move afoot to try to start small and see if, share equipment. Like Brewster has a pond cleaner that's a weed whacker that'll go in and collect all the weeds and help clean the ponds. And then Ed, for us, would take that and put it in the ingester and create energy out of it, because we need to keep filling that ingester every day. So there's some creative work happening, but it's got to really go through those decision makers who are going to be able to convince the elected officials to be able to go along with it. And that would be on that municipal managers group to start looking at.
Yeah.
So when I look at an outsourced arrangement, you would occasionally need that $300 an hour, really high level network person, 50 hours a year, right? You don't need them on staff all the time.
Correct.
So when you go to or when you go to a firm, you grab that person when you need them, and then you're not paying them again. And then you're kind of using their tier 1 support, and then they escalate to the tier 2, and then they get into the very sophisticated high level talent. What we need in our towns are someone that does everything. And our padding ends up being the 40% benefits that we pay our individuals, over and above the wages that we pay, similar to what the county has to do if they try to do it. Theirs is even higher because they pay 75% of their health insurance, and we pay 50%. So those are the types of things that we look at. And again, I came from the private sector, economies of scale. You have very high level, sophisticated people that can come in and solve a problem. And that's just, things that I've been trying to replicate, as I, work in the town of Yarmouth and try to work with the partners. We've talked with the financial folks about putting together SWAT teams to actually implement software solutions to try to get them up and running very quickly. So, yeah, there are a lot of ideas, but, it pretty much should come from the county. That's where Open Cape is. Along the fiber optic network, that we all share with through the county, that would be great, but that just has not been something that has occurred today.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thought that I have is just, like you said, you don't need that person that's super high level that often. There's a Cape-based person who has a fractional chief technology officer firm. And that might be something that could help fill some gaps if you needed someone who was just going to kind of run the day-to-day, and then someone who could help you solve bigger strategic problems and think bigger from once in a while. The last question that I just have is, So making sure that I have a clear understanding of what is that change, what in the overall increase. So we've got an overall increase of 252,000 or 51%. And I'm trying to figure out what of that is the change from capital to operating and what of that is actually new.
Yeah, okay, so let's go through the list, because this is the large list of items. There is the Office 365 suite for $38,000 is new, because what we have done in the past is buy the licenses every 4 to 5 years, and this particular item would be to pay for it on a yearly basis, our licenses. The Munis Financial Management Suite going to the cloud, about $40,000 of that is new money. So instead of hosting 5 servers that are related to Munis, Munis will now take over the hosting and the maintenance of the server environment. And those are the new items, because many of the other ones had already been converted to the cloud previously, and now we're having to pay the bills.
Okay. So then by my math, 78,000.
I can give you the total. I can give you the dollar amounts in each line item that go into the increases, if you like. Put that in a spreadsheet and send that to you.
All I'm asking is if the bottom line of the department is going up by 252,000, what of that is actually like the bottom line truly going up that much? It's the same question I asked, Jeff Colby the other week. If you're moving money around from one department to another, one funding source to another, it can appear as being, oh my God, a 52% increase, but that's not real. It's actually more like a 20% increase. That's what I'm trying to understand, is what percentage of that is actually truly new and real.
Like I did with Jeff Colby, I'll give you the detail.
Okay, thank you.
Well, like I did for Jeff Colby.
Anybody have any further questions? Okay, Ed, I think we're all set with that first presentation.
Okay.
And we're moving right into the finance presentation, again with Ed.
We share that out.
Well, while Ed is getting set up, I will mention that Svetlana Salem is on the line, and she's been doing a lot of work holding together our bills payable, our admin piece of both IT and the procurement. And we asked her to join us tonight unless there were any real specific questions that Ed couldn't answer, but usually there's nothing that Ed can't answer. But I wanted to shout out that she's here, and she's done a great job working very hard. Jack, you're here. Let me get you on.
Svetlana is doing contracts across every department in town, and she's been working very, very hard on the contracts for moving us from in-town servers to a more virtual environment, a cloud-based environment. She's been invaluable doing those types of things.
Well, Svetlana, thank you very much for hanging in there. That's got to be really stressful.
Ed, would you like to introduce your team?
I also want to say she started off in the finance department.
Yeah. Would you like to introduce your team that's with you at this point? So people know who's here on the line?
I'm not actually sure who was able to make it. Do you have that list? Is Maria Ruseva, our town accountant? I believe she's on.
She is.
I believe Mary Maslowski is on, our town clerk.
No, Mary didn't make it yet. You've got Tara.
Okay. Oh, Tara from our assessing department, our assistant assessor.
Yep. You've got Maria. You've got Andy.
Oh, Andy Machado, our Director of Assessing. Great.
Yep. Those are the three that you had on, along with Svetlana.
Okay. All right. All right, I've got to brag about those guys a little bit here too. Not because they're on, but because they deserve it, because I'll be bragging about the people that aren't on. It's difficult. I gave you the PDF, I believe, of the mission statement. George, I'm sorry if that didn't get to you, or I'm sorry, Pat may have sent you the PDF of the mission statements. These divisions do very different things, but what I tried to do is boil down what they perhaps do in common. And, you know, again, very different roles played by all of those different departments. And I can, you know, review the mission statement or go through the PDF if you like, but I would encourage you to read the PDF as it relates to the mission of each one of the different divisions. I tried to keep the slides as small as possible.
And
Okay.
why don't you just go ahead with the presentation? We can read that mission statement on our own.
Yep. Awesome. I wanted to go through the key points. I think people might have the misconception that it's small Yarmouth. You can't do very much work in Yarmouth. So I want to put Yarmouth in perspective. Yarmouth has the fourth most personal property accounts that are assessed, billed, and collected out of 351 municipalities in the state of Massachusetts. Yarmouth has the 14th most total parcels that are assessed, billed, and collected in the state. 63rd most motor vehicles, excise accounts. The team that you have on the phone and others were the first in the state to set the tax rate 3 years in a row, and the second out of 351 the previous year. And this year, because we had a revaluation year, which the assessing department had to go through every property. The Department of Revenue came out to the town of Yarmouth to inspect properties and make sure we did it correctly. It's a very intensive process that the Director of Assessing and Assistant Assessor and his staff had to do, and we were 14th in the state, and not all of that were issues related to the town of Yarmouth. And why is that important? We need to get these bills out as quickly as possible because of our cash flow. We're a semi-annual community, so we need to get our bills out so that we can start collecting that money so that we don't have to borrow to keep on paying the bills for the town. Other things, other metrics are like we're sixth in the state to submit our Schedule A. If we don't submit the Schedule A, we don't get the state aid. We have 156,000 individual bills collected and processed. Many departments that you might look at, or towns that you might look at, they might have a separate water department. The collectors department actually collects the water bills for the town of Yarmouth, where they don't in Barnstable, and they don't in Dennis and certain other towns. We had 6 elections this year. 2 were combined on the same day, but those were done. You know, just more numbers, 18,000 individual invoices that had to be reviewed, that's not on the screen, by the accounting department. I talked about implementing vendor self-service so we can actually streamline and make the other departments work a lot easier. We issued 9,000 payments. 3,000 of those were done electronically because we're moving more towards EFT. We manage 120 different funds. That's like having a balance sheet or a chart of accounts, income statement, and expense statement for 120 different companies. Many of them are very simple, but those involve the enterprise funds, the CPA funds, the general fund, and all of the different grants that we have to manage. And we brought them down from 192 because we've done a lot of cleanup over the last 7 years in terms of our books and our funds and everything that we're doing in the finance department. We do 20,000 payroll advices that we send out for pay because we're a weekly operation. We have 100% direct deposit now, where we started from 60%. We deliver 96.7% of those payroll advices to people electronically, so that people don't have to. Pat will emphasize with this. People were taking checks and walking down the beaches and handing those paper checks to lifeguards in the summer, and we don't have to do that anymore. 2,900 municipal lien certificates. So the count of what the folks do in the finance department is incredible in terms of the number of transactions that they have to handle. We were just rated the second time in 12 months by S&P. We were given a very strong rating, the highest financial management score you can receive from S&P, and we're in the top 15% in the country in terms of our financial management. And we were rated in March, and they gave us some guidelines and benchmarks, and if you go below that, you're going to be downgraded. We were not, So we have a AA+ rating. They hit us last time. It was okay. It's the economy score. We proved that our economy score is as good as any on the Cape. That got very strong economy scores. So then they looked at, well, maybe in the future you're going to have $400 million of debt on your books. So they reduced that score, and that's because they did not want to increase or upgrade any community during a recession or during COVID, even though I think we're entitled to it. The result was for the DPW garage, we got a 1.69% interest rate after the premiums that we get. So that's the effective interest rate on our note for the DPW garage, and we got a 1% rate for the borrowing for the golf course. The DOR has recently asked us to be the first in the state to provide our best practices for how we do things in the town of Yarmouth, and our team will be participating in putting together webinars for the rest of the state on how we actually function internally within the finance department. The finance department manages $95 million coming in revenue and $95 million going out in expenses. Directly brought in by the finance department is 84% of all of the town's revenue, or $80 million of the town's revenue. That's our assessing department doing the assessments and working with the other departments within finance to set the tax rate, working with the collector, the treasurers, the town clerks, and the accounting department. Finance department led based on trying to make sure that we weren't going to lose money at the septic facility. The result of that was turning the septic facility around, so we're now able to generate retained earnings. But Tara, who's on the call, worked with me on grants to bring in $1 million in grants for the Cape Cod Energy Project, and with only 2 RFPs out of 4 that will be, or 2 commitments out of 4 that will result from the Cape Cod Energy Park, we've brought in $12 million that will be paid over 20 years, and we'll still get revenue after 20 years, but declining because this project is solar and the efficiency of solar decreases over time. Excuse me. As it relates to the COVID situation in the past year, finance had to be finance was in the building. Finance was working the full time. We couldn't just delay our setting of our tax rate or collecting our revenues or getting out all the permits and licenses that we have to deal with within the finance department. Our staff was working when we had to reduce, people in the department. Our folks were working, pretty much overtime to actually get that work done. So our guys were working through COVID, haven't taken breaks. Everybody, I can feel a little bit of tension in some of the departments because they haven't had breaks since COVID, but we're trying to relieve that tension as much as we can. Our department was the first department in the town to be open to the public without appointments, and most other towns on the Cape weren't open and were never opened. and we started in July, and we ended mid-December. Our staff, because of the election burden that took place in the town clerk's office, rotated to help out the town clerk to make sure we could get through 6 elections and all of the mail-in ballots and early voting that we had to do. So we supplemented the town clerk staff with other staff working on overtime, and our manager and the town clerks, like the other departments, put in a tremendous amount of overtime to try to get those 6 elections accomplished. When you look at our budget, it's fairly unremarkable, and it actually has a decrease. Understanding where we are with this recession that came through, we looked and we took a very hard look at our budget, and we in some cases decreased as much as we could in our budget. So we also have some offsets to the rise that might have happened in salaries based on hiring new staff at lower step grades or step levels, et cetera. Due to hiring freezes, we were down 33% of where we were in 2010. Again, tremendous amounts of overtime done by our managers and our different teams. We were down, at least for the last 3 years, 1 position because of a charter change. One of our persons who no longer is with us, he took a position in another location on an interim basis, and because he took that position on an interim basis, we couldn't replace that key position. And then there were other retirements, and so we've been operating at very low staff. And we also try to help out other departments as much as we can because we try to keep the town working. Again, wages increases due to step increases in COLAs. Expenses, we have to shift our election workers from expenses to wages because of the IRS threshold. So that's a change in an increase in wages, but a decrease in expenses. The challenges we're facing, staffing, we're now hiring and replacing the staffing that we've been missing for over 3 years. We are trying to bring those folks up to speed so that we're still down 1, but we want to get people some vacations because they haven't gotten vacations. We're always looking at productivity gains. Before we look to hire anybody new, and we haven't gotten to our 2010 levels like most of the rest of the town, and many departments haven't gotten to the 2010 levels either, but we're not going to ask anybody for more staff if we don't look to increase our efficiency first. And as we've indicated in the IT slides, technology is critical to finance. Without that technology, and that's why we're taking on the 4 IT projects, without that technology, we're not able to function at the level of staffing that we currently have or will have at the right amount of budgeting going forward. Recommendations, I would just say when other staff members request increases in staffing, please ask what they've done to make themselves more productive and efficient before they actually boost their current staffing levels over what their staffing levels have been and see where they were versus 2010. Likewise, if somebody's looking at funding, what funds do they already have in the bank in articles or other funds that they could utilize before asking for more money as part of their budget asks. And then, again, particularly because this is a pandemic and a recession, we need to be very careful about, additional money that we hand out. Excuse me. And just to be open and transparent like I want other people to be, we were looking at some AP automation that would OCR the accounts payable transactions. And I can build the automation that will tie that solution to our core solution. But if I get hit by a bus, like I tell my guys, there's nobody in our IT shop that can maintain it. So I didn't want to spend the $80,000 and then not have that software being used going forward. So until we stabilize our IT department, I am indicating that that should go back, that $80,000 should go back, and it should be used to supplement the budget that we have going forward to make sure that we can continue to operate in the fiscal year 2022. That's doing what I'm practicing what I'm preaching to other people. And we'll ask for the funds again when IT is in a better position and we're in a better position for our staffing to help streamline the rest of the departments as it relates to the accounts payable function. Again, I have plenty of good excuses why we didn't do it. I didn't get it done in 2 years. That money should go back to the general fund, period. The other funding sources we have are when we do early voting, when the state mandates that we have to do 2 weeks of early voting, including on Saturdays and Sundays, and we have to pay overtime to staff to do that, they reimburse that money to us. What we're going to do is we're going to utilize that money because we have no space to securely store our ballots. I have to take a 2-wheeler and bring ballots up and down stairs, move it around different vaults because we don't have enough storage. And we've had this on the facilities plan with the money to do it. So that's where part of that money is going. And we're going to use money, $4,000, to actually use that money to supplement the finance budget to pay for the increases related to having to pay the election workers on payroll as opposed to 1099ing the election workers, because there are IRS rules. If the election workers make over a certain amount, they need to be on the payroll. Excuse me. The other funding that we have is overlay reserve. That's funding that we build up right before the recertification process. Our assessors did a fantastic job in doing the recertification. Our abatement requests, the requests that say you didn't value our property correctly, those are incredibly low. I think we had 40 requests. Many of those will be turned down because you can't just say, well, we don't like our abatement, what our values were. We think it's too high. You have to show that there's a reason why it's too high. Did you knock down a shed? Did you knock down a garage? Did we say that you had an extra bedroom and you really don't have it? Those types of things. So even those 40 aren't going to be all abated, but there will be some. And then in addition, we have to use the overlay reserve for our exemptions for the blind, the elderly, the veterans, for our tax work-off program. So that's where that money goes. We feel, we're being aggressive, but that we could probably utilize $589,000 of the overlay reserve to bring that down below $1 million to help fund the finance department's pumper. The rest of that will come from their ambulance reserves, and then we'll use $100,000 for the first $5.2 million that would be used for the short-term borrowing for wastewater that would allow us to do the Route 28 laying of both the water pipe and the wastewater pipe, so that we can have the state do the paving instead of our paying for the paving. So that's where we would use this fund balance. So those are the amounts that we have to actually contribute to trying to balance the budget for FY22, in addition to trying to keep our budget pretty much, or our budget lower than it was last fiscal year. And that's it. And I just want to again point out the managers and the staff are extremely talented. We just hired 2 people, one with an MBA and the other one with a master's degree in accounting, to work on our finance team as replacement hires. We have incredibly upgraded our talent. Other people talk about the fact that other people in finance used to say we have secretaries that we need to hire, or secretaries that are part of our staff. We don't have secretaries. We have knowledge workers. they are people that have to manage large amounts of data in order to be as productive as they need to be in order to be able to operate the finance department with the staffing levels that we currently operate the finance department with. And we also rotate staff that can go on a needed basis to the town clerks or the assessing department or the accounting department or the collector treasurer's department and help them out if they get underwater for certain different functions. So we've built a staff that's multi-talented, can rotate and fill in many different positions, including helping out other departments get their objectives done when we absolutely have to, given that they'll be able to provide some overtime funding to allow our staff to help them do that. And any questions?
Any questions for Ed? Thanks, Ed, for that presentation.
Yeah, I've got one.
Thank you.
Stephanie?
So Ed, thank you for that very thorough presentation. Just going to the idea that, you are down a couple staff people, I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. In the town accountant section with the sort of count of employees, it looks like you're down 2 or maybe 2.5 employees between last year and this and the proposed FY22. Is that right?
We are not any longer. We just hired 2 people.
Okay, you did. All right. So
Yeah.
what we've got in the budget.
I think you might see, are you looking at the vacant positions? Is that what you're looking at?
I'm looking at the budget book, the personnel summary.
Okay, yeah, let me bring that up. Hold on.
I mean, you could just tell me you're short staffed by how many people, or will be once the hiring is done by how many people?
Right now we're short staffed 1 person with 2 recent hires.
Okay.
That was when we produced the budget book. We were short 2 people in finance. Maria Ruseva was holding the fort with other people that were rotating to help out the accounting department.
Okay. And yeah, I guess I'm just a little confused between the numbers that I'm seeing on the screen right now and the numbers that are in the budget book in terms of the
So
totals.
this is a compilation of the entire finance department. So what you have to do is look at the summary, not including the debt. So let me, I'm just getting to the pages now.
You don't have to. You can just tell me what I'm just looking for just like
if you add up,
anything that's jumped significantly since you put the budget book together.
yeah, if you add up the town accountant, assessors, collector treasurers, and town clerks budgets, that's this summary. So instead of giving you each individual budget, I gave you the summary of all of them combined.
Okay.
And this doesn't include the debt budget.
Okay. Well, I just will say thank you for, practicing what you preach. And I do like that idea of asking department heads, what have you done to boost productivity, streamline or outsource? I like that. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Again, this is going to be a challenging budget year, so that's why I'm indicating we have to look at every option to use existing funds from other sources to close the budget gap that we'll have, I believe, when the schools come in. And again, I think the thanks all go to the finance staff. When I became the finance director, we had a lot of open positions to fill because a lot of people left. And what I did was I went after the best talent that was available in the region to staff up the Town of Yarmouth Finance Department. And we grew some people within that really rose to the occasion. But we have a top-notch set of people in the finance department.
Ed, when did you join us?
finance director like 7 years ago. And we moved from a AA- to a AA+. We moved from, Dan Knappich used to joke about Westport. He used to ask them, so why are we always last in setting our tax rate? And they told him it's in alphabetical order because Yarmouth was always last setting its tax rate. And then he saw that we were first in the state, and he goes, I guess I figured out that what they told me was wrong. So there's been a major transformation in how the finance department operates, and that's because of the great people that are in the finance department.
Pat, do you have a question or comment?
I do. You know, Ed sets a very high bar for all of us, and his knowledge and his leadership is well felt throughout the entire group. Oftentimes we struggle to reach that bar, but it's not for lack of trying. And I think we all know his skill set, and the people around him that he, you know, rightly so, gives the credit for the work that they've done. It's going to be a tough couple of years, as we all know, and some of his suggestions are well stated, and we might find a way to ask those questions and get those reports back from the other department heads. But I know we're all trying to do what we can, but we love to give Ed a hard time when we can, because he takes it so well. And but with his staff here, I have to say that we're very lucky and very honored to have him with us. And he really has kept Yarmouth afloat for a number of years because of his hard work and his knowledge. And I'm sure the town would like to thank him. So I'll just do that myself tonight.
It's the whole town that pulled together to do that. And I can give you those summary reports. I gave it to the Capital Budget Committee, and I gave it what's outstanding in terms of funds and what's outstanding in terms of articles. I'd be happy to give you the latest copy of those.
Thank you. Any further questions? Ed, we appreciate it. Jack, you got a question?
Yeah, I just want to
Yep, go ahead.
extend my, I just think Ed has done a wonderful job in all the time I've been on the finance committee. I know he came in about a year or two after I arrived, and he's done an excellent job over these last years, and I just want him to keep up the good work.
Thanks, Jack.
Okay, Ed, thank you and your team for presenting tonight. And I know that you have a transfer too that you want to discuss. So I think we could probably, I think we can go right into the budget transfers. Oh, there we go. Ed, if you'd like to explain this for us.
Ed, is
Pat,
this-
will you?
Yeah, Ed, is this the one that we're expecting for tonight? I had two others that I think were approved last week. So this is the one that was pending. Mr. Chairman, I asked because we only got this to you a couple days ago, if the committee would like to hold off on this until the next meeting, or if they're comfortable discussing it now.
Okay, so this is the one that you alluded to in your email that we were going to talk about next week. So this isn't the one that I have.
Okay.
Why don't
Which
we
one?
why don't we wait until next week and let's do the ones that you sent us.
Okay. I'm trying to think of, let me stop the share. I know that there were two, but I think you voted on them last week. One was a transfer for buying larger monitors for the building department so that they could have an easier time reading their screens. So it was a transfer to the building department from the assistance program for properties. There's Ed, what's the official word for that?
Yeah, I don't think that was done last week. Do you have that? You want me to bring that up?
That doesn't sound
Yeah.
familiar.
Was
That
that
would be
emailed
great.
to them?
Yeah, it was emailed. but I thought we had voted it, so I didn't include it on my, my thumb drive tonight. But if you've got it, Ed,
I
that would
may
be
have
great.
missed that.
Do
Okay.
you remember seeing that, Madam Chair and Mr. Chair and Madam Vice Chair? It was a request through the Inspectional Services Department from one fund to another.
I mean, what I'm seeing in the email that went out along with the rest of the packet was transfer like 3 transfers from facilities and 1 from senior services to IT.
Right, that got changed. We were able to not use the facility money, so they could triple that money by their connections and doing work. They could get matching and reduced funding to do a lot of the carpeting and the other work that they're doing. So we felt it was better to leave the facility money alone and in the hands of DPW. And so all I needed to do was to transfer that 30,100 and whatever to fund the channel, government TV channel contractor for 6 months. Now I did that because one, the senior center's closed, so that money was put aside to pay for all the instructors. And there's not running those programs and they're not doing enough virtually. So that money was still left and it was a $50,000 line. So they've saved 29 plus in order to, and they've encumbered that for what they need. So that 30, they knew they wouldn't expend through the end of the year. So we could do that to upgrade not only their My Senior Center software, but to work with the government TV channel to do some sharing. And then the additional 15 that I needed that we were going to take from facilities, we're looking at working through a special fund that was generated through the receipts from selling the boardwalk planks at Grace Beach. That fund generated more than 3 times the amount needed to rebuild in case of any kind of physical damage by storms and whatever. So we knew that we had a part of that. And because we used the website to sell the majority of those planks, and the website and that special account has a balance over $144,000 at the moment, that we felt we could use 30 of that to contract for an upgrade to the government TV for the next 6 months, understanding that the new IT director, who will be responsible for that when they come in 6 months, as of July and August, will have some time to deal with more critical issues. And then we can continue moving forward with this contractor, and then they can decide how they want to move forward once they're ready in July in the new fiscal year. Does that make sense? Go ahead, Ed.
Do you want me to share that document
That would be great if you
that I
would.
believe?
Yep, I thought that was what I had updated. This one, so you can see, oh, there's the new one that you were talking about. This is the problem property cleanup that was under the inspectional services, and Ed's asking to transfer this small amount of money into the PC and component replacement. What we're finding is our inspectors, both, electrical, plumbing, and the like, are having a hard time reading the plans that are put before them to deal with a number of the issues before them. So they're asking for larger PCs so that they can see those plans on a larger field and have a better, easier time to read them and all the detail on them.
Yeah, just to give you some background, the problem property cleanup article was an article that inspectional services had at their disposal that they don't feel that they're going to be utilizing. And what I always try to do when somebody asks for more money to do something, I try to have them look at the money they already have. So the health department and the building department wanted widescreen monitors or larger monitors because during COVID, they're using their online permitting and licensing system. So they're getting, instead of getting paper copies of the plans, they're getting them digitally. And what they want to be able to do is see their plans and look at them online with those larger monitors. So what they're doing is switching money from one of their appropriations to another one of their appropriations to be able to fund those monitors. So with your approval, then they would be able to do that.
I don't see an issue with that. I mean, we can entertain a motion if we'd like, or we can have further discussion.
Yeah, I just want to be clear about what we're voting on because we just covered two different topics. Are we talking about first this and then the second?
I think we're going to talk about
The one
this
that
Yeah, my apologies. I
The one
thought
that-
Ed was putting up the one that was pertinent to government TV and the website, but this is the one that he was talking about. So it is a separate issue, and my
Why don't we
apologies for the
why don't we
confusion.
take this one first, and then we'll go back to Pat, your
Okay.
that you were discussing. I think that's a.
All right, so motion to accept the problem property cleanup transfer to PC component repairs replacement transfer.
I'll
item.
second it.
Thank you. Stephanie,
Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Robert,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
Jack.
Aye.
I'm an I as well. Okay, that's taken care of. Thank you, Ed. And if we could move back, I have the, does everyone have that email? I know, George, you don't, with the transfers that Pat sent to us. Oh, no, is that it? Oh, that's it right there. Okay.
Yeah, it should say COA, not OCA.
Right, okay. Do we want to have any further discussion on this? Anybody?
I just want to get a sense of, Ed, how the IT application improvement and services fits into the FY22 budget request. Like, would it reduce the FY22 budget request by $30,000?
No, this is a new item that the, again, in Pat's additional role of managing the media center, the Channel 18, this is new money. This is money that we might have taken from the Comcast Capital Fund, but that fund has been used for other purposes. So usually the Channel 18 funds itself, but the Channel 18 operation did not have enough money. So this is some additional money. This is not going to help us with FY22, except to the extent that, we would not have to take this out of the articles that are being asked for IT.
So this is to fill a hole in FY21's budget because Channel 18 isn't paying for itself the way it normally would because of COVID. Is that an accurate summary of what I just heard?
Exactly.
For a variety of reasons, yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that Channel 18 generated any revenue, so that's confusing a little bit.
Channel 18 does it. It's funded by Comcast money, Comcast licensing money.
Oh yeah, that's always a fun thing. Okay.
Mhm.
And what are so then I'm just curious. So I understand if it's like filling a hole in terms of like services and just like general operating, but what is the application improvement?
Well, at the moment, well, Ed, do you want to answer that, or can I?
Sure. So it's application improvement and services. Right now, there are no IT staff members running Channel 18. A consultant that I think JP Ludwig is actually doing that for the town, and this is to pay his contract.
Right, so we used to have some minimum wage operators for the Channel 18. And along with that, ran a bulletin board that unfortunately had the picture of sex offenders that ran for the last decade, because we really didn't have anyone changing the programming or the content or upgrading the government TV station, as you find in other communities that you just use it for a community input and to draw people to it. So Dan, with the help of Mark Forrest, who was the town administrator in Brewster before we were lucky enough to get him on our selectman board, and who's now chair. Mark worked with JP in Brewster, and JP also runs the government channel in Truro. And now he's here in Yarmouth, and he used to work for Comcast before they split off that piece. So he's already made improvements like adding public radio to our soundtrack. So you can, instead of putting on the radio, you can put on the TV here, the Boston Public Radio Station. He's showing programming on exercises and pertinent to seniors during a certain time of day. He's looking for Cape Cod commission meetings and other meetings of other communities that would be of interest to our community and showing those. He actually has a television schedule that we can watch it. He is also working on the hybrid Zoom, YouTube, and Channel 18 publication of not only the selectmen's meetings, but others. Public hearings will be for this, the Finance Committee and the Capital Budget Committee, when we have a public meeting about our budget for this coming year as required by the charter. So he's bringing us up to speed. And I only made it a 6-month contract because I felt that the IT director, who really should be overseeing this group, within the next 6 months will be hired and will be able to get her feet wet and be able to get ready to handle this part of the operation. And until then, I've just kind of stepped in. So I didn't want to go beyond the 6 months in case they had other thoughts about an internal candidate who would work on this or other things they wanted to do.
Okay, thank you, Pat, for that explanation. That makes a lot of sense. Admittedly, I never watched Channel 18, so I would have no idea what's on there. I will just say that, and I haven't tried to find a lot of videos aside from the YouTube service recently, but I do remember like a year or two ago looking, and it was just really hard to find the public meetings being on there. So, and I would just say, and it seems like that's improved, but I would just say, I think the most important thing during COVID, while for town government in terms of public access, is to make sure that public meetings are made available to the public to see almost as soon on demand as possible. To make sure that the residents are able to know what's going on in the town. And but again, it does seem like there's been improvements in that. But I would say that's probably more important than, like, I don't know, aerobics.
Well, they're working pretty hard. We have this system where now here on YouTube, I send it to the cloud when we're done with our meeting. Our social media people will go in and they'll grab it and put it on YouTube. And then this gentleman on Channel 18 will grab it and put it on the town channel. One of the things we discovered is that all those videos for the last decade that were available once we set up the hearing room appropriately were never labeled correctly. So we have hundreds of videos that have no title. So part of this money will be used to bring in someone that'll just watch and put a title. That's the Board of Appeals from September of 2006 and on. And then we'll really have a catalog that people can go back and look at what was happening and what decisions were made at those meetings. So we're pretty excited to do that. And that's a part of this in the next 6 months. And it might not be done by then, but we've got some competent people who are willing to do it for not a lot of money, along with what this group is doing to help bring us up to a professional level where we can actually do this hybrid of YouTube and Zoom and Channel 18 and have it really work.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm glad to hear it. And it's not just as a note that it's not a necessarily a website that you can only put up what becomes available, right? That's done by town staff. But I've noticed in the past that when it comes to posting minutes and agenda items to the website, we need to get a lot better.
And that's different. So that's going to be the website issue that I pulled off of here, that I'm doing in a different way, that you won't have to actually transfer funds, but we're waiting for that contract to go out with 4 different bidders to make sure that we do it legally. So, and that will be another 6-month contract, hopefully at a lesser rate than this, that will strip clean and add new content into the website and make the website much more effective. But this is channel 18, which is totally different. than-
Yeah. But what you're talking about, will that run through the IT department?
Yeah, they'll control all of that. And again, I just know when I walk into a position, I need some time to get my feet wet and evaluate and prioritize.
Totally.
So what I said is, let me do this because I've got all the players together. They meet every other week on Zoom and they talk about what's happening and what's not working. And they're starting to really build a nice communication group, though consultant and staff. And so I just wanted to keep this going until the new IT director decided if it was worth that investment or if they'd like to redirect these monies elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think the missing piece to that is social media, like posting links to videos.
So we have an
bringing
internal
everybody
staff
together.
person that does that, Kyle Pedicini. He's in the planning office and he controls both our Twitter and our Facebook. And he's the one that captures and puts everything on YouTube Live and also on YouTube in the historical group. And he's very good at teaching and he's getting everybody up to speed on Zoom. So we've got that internal piece. It's just that he's got a lot of other jobs too. So we're hoping that we can balance that because communication is so important.
Yeah,
So
we have to meet
important.
people where they're at. Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Great. Why don't we see if there's a motion? Anybody want to make a motion to accept this?
I will.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Aye.
Nate? Nate's still
Aye.
George?
All right.
Sarah?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
I am an aye as well. Robert is no longer with us this evening.
Jumped off. Okay.
He's having technical difficulties. I think that's it for transfer requests. New business, I have a couple things. I just want to make sure everyone, I sent out an email, excuse me, last week about the schools that came from Ken Jenks. I want to make sure everyone got that. That's for our meeting 2 Wednesdays from now. And it shows the variance, which was quite a bit larger than I'm assuming everyone would have hoped. We don't need to discuss it. I just wanted to make sure everyone got the email. George, did you get that?
I don't think I did, Brian, but let me check my spam again.
Yeah,
I've
and-
confirmed that what Pat sent, I have now.
Okay, so if you could just shoot me back an email that you got it, so I know that you do
Yeah.
have it. Otherwise, I can send it back to you. And then the last thing is, speaking of minutes, and I noticed that there was an issue with the Board of Selectmen having their meeting minutes put on the website and updated. Pat, do we have any idea? I thought we had someone come in and take those meeting minutes for us, and apparently the past 2 meetings, I don't think that's happening.
I had a chance to reach out and actually speak to the one individual that had been secured by Dan before he left for that. And the sense of urgency doesn't seem to have been passed on to them that what we need and how soon we need it. So we're going to look at some alternatives. This young woman is heading off to Florida for a few weeks with her children to get a change of scenery and homeschool them. So I believe that her ability to transpose minutes might be somewhat challenged. So Sarah and I were just talking about it earlier today, and we're going to see what we can do to get someone else. I explained the need that some people don't take minutes during the meeting, and they depend upon the minutes that we present afterwards to jar their recollection of what was decided and help with them making decisions. So I understand the importance, and we're going to try to find an alternative to get those minutes done.
Does the fact that these meetings are now recorded change that? Does it make it fine that we're not doing? I just don't want to be in a situation where we're not doing something we're supposed to be doing.
Oh, no, I remember that there was a point in time long before Zoom when the Board of Selectmen was about 18 months behind on their minutes. And there was a lot of catch up that was done. You know, those tapes, of course, were available at Channel 18 if you could guess and push enough buttons to figure out what meeting you were on. So we understand that some people like to do the digital video thing, but we need written minutes. There's no legal reason because we have these records, but it doesn't matter. It's going to help, and we're moving towards town meeting, and you all need to make some important and difficult decisions, and I know you need to reflect back on what we've decided. So we're working hard. We just talked about it about 4:30 this afternoon, so we'll do what we can to find a new person. And if any of you know of someone that might be interested in doing some of this work locally, there's a cat that's about to attack you, Stephanie, that I would be open to hearing from anyone that you might know that might be interested in doing some of this work.
Okay, that's
Pat,
good.
I recommended a service that does that, and I'll resend that to you and the town administration.
Would you please? There's some concerns that we can talk about tomorrow, but I think that's a great idea. Please do that if you can, Ed.
Our first management comment from our auditors in 3 years was that our minutes weren't published for the Board of Selectmen in a timely manner.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not something to be proud of. I agree. So, but taking my time to spend 2 hours to transpose the minutes of a meeting is probably not the best use of my time. And I don't think I'm too important. I just don't think it's the best use. So I am open to any suggestions or recommendations any of you can make.
Thanks, Pat.
Mhm.
That's it for my new business. We are 11 minutes prior to our designated end date. I think that's a fantastic accomplishment.
I'll move we adjourn.
Quick question. Are we meeting next week or are we waiting 2 weeks? Because I don't have anything on my calendar yet.
We are meeting next week. We have Cape Tech.
Okay.
and Acton.
All right. So I assume
Sorry.
we'll see something come out from the administration with a Zoom link and whatnot.
She tends to do it like tomorrow or Friday for you. And then I will attach both the admin and the Cape Tech PowerPoint for your review. I try to get those done to you by Friday as best as I can when I have them in hand. So you have the weekend in case you find time to review them.
It's my favorite thing to do.
I know I ask
Okay.
every week, sorry, but Pat, just next week is admin and Cape Tech. The week after is schools, and then we're good. We're done with presentations, or are there more?
Yes.
That's correct, unless you'd like to bring someone else in and then, you know.
Oh, I think we're good.
Right. And Sarah, I know where you're going with this. We'll start our meetings to vote on these.
No, actually, what I was gonna say is maybe we should take a week off in between the presentations and the votes. I could use a Wednesday night
That
off.
sounds wonderful.
But I'll tell you that I have planned to be away from the 20th to the 28th. So if that is a week that you choose to take off, that would make me feel better because I won't be here to be your Zoom mistress for that particular week.
Executive decision done. Beautiful.
Thank you very much. Sir. And also the capital budget has been asked to prioritize their selection of the 1.5 million in the anticipation that we might not have enough to fulfill all of that. So that's an opportunity. You might want to bring them in and chat with them. They're due before the Board of Selectmen coming up soon from the charter request. So we'll look at that schedule and see if that might be your next group after you hear from all the department heads.
I believe there's a motion on the floor.
Second.
I'll second it.
Alrighty. Steph,
Aye.
Nate,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Sarah,
Hi.
Jack,
Aye.
I as well.
All right. Thank you all.
Does
Have a
the
good
kitty
night.
have a vote? Who's the kitty?
This is Charlie.
Does
And
Charlie
who-
say aye?
Charlie says it's time to give him some attention and probably some food.
Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night, sir.
Night.